My dad was involved in our life up until the age of probably about 12, where then he sought after others and divorce. Loved sports, loved music, mostly rock and roll. I drank at 14, and it was sanctioned. It was approved. It wasn't like hide it. We grew up in a home where everybody did. That's just sort of how we grew up. Everybody smoked, everybody drank. It was normal. From when my dad had left, we were always striving, working, keeping bills paid, and we always just cut lawn, sold bait, newspapers, whatever I could do to bring income in. So I didn't have that desire, I didn't have that parent pushing me to say, what do you want to do in life? Or encouraging me to stay in school or work hard. I was always selling something. And it transitioned into the automobile industry for me. And ultimately that's how I met Diane. We had so much in common. Where we grew up, where we went to eat, things we did. We both were intrigued that the other was involved in church, that they liked church. We were in the Catholic faith. We grew up, both of us, going to church. I started going on my own at a very early age because I was in Catholic school for a little while. And I just developed a love for church. I loved going. I loved the smell of it. I loved the music. I love church. I love the stained glass. I just truthfully didn't love Jesus. I didn't even know him. I just went to church. It made me feel good. And when Diane had run into Marcia Serenelli a couple times at the library, because Amalia and Olivia are similar, close in age, they hit it off, and Mrs. Serenelli invited Diane to VBS, and my kids loved it. Meanwhile, they were in CCD, and it was like, okay, let's bribe them to go 1 hour a day, a half a mile from my house. Then Jay started coming and be like, Dad, take the fastest route there. How fast can we get there? Are you taking the right way? They just love to come. So Diane went to a women's tea, she went women Bible fellowship study, and that's where Diane just became on fire for the Lord. She was instant. And she would come running home and go, you would not believe what I just read in Hebrews. And I'm thinking, what is Hebrews? It was like the Peanuts parents, wah, 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 out here. And she was going on and telling me how on fire and how much she loved the Lord. And I'm thinking, yeah, but we're Catholic. So I was doing for a little while both. I would go to our church by our home, and then we would come to Grace. I was sitting in a Sunday school class here with actually Bob LaForge. He was teaching on omnipresence. And there was a moment where he just said that he is everywhere at all times and he knows it all. And I was like, sweat was on my forehead. I'm going, he was when I did what? He was where? And it hit me. It became real. My sin became real. I was doing all these things trying to sort of earn his favor and love. And then as I realized who he is, that's just not how it works. He loves me first. And because he loves me first, and because I understand the holiness of God, that I needed him to bring me to God. I couldn't get there on my own. And all the things I was doing, whether I was cutting a lawn at the church or serving or doing things, it didn't make him love me more. I look at it as being a dad. I look and say, what could my son do to make me love him more? What could my son do to make me love him less? I might be disappointed in a moment of time, but love? That's not something that he earns. I love him because he's my son. It wasn't until I really started to study the Word and understand sin that I started to hate it. Because up until that point, I didn't like my sin. I didn't like the consequence of my sin. But I didn't necessarily hate sin. I wasn't there yet. It was that was a pivotal time when my sin became very real. And now I started to know who God was, and now I realized I don't want to sin against that God. As I said, I always loved church. I would rarely ever miss. But in hindsight, looking back, I realize now there was no change. I would love to go to church because it would make me feel good. But I didn't necessarily go to church because I was honoring the Lord. I didn't want to know him. I didn't want to serve him or worship the Lord. I wanted to go because that's what you did. Sort of, I want to say guilt-driven, but not really. I just felt good about going. I would never pick up and sit there and read through the book of Acts. I just wouldn't do it if it wasn't him pulling me in. And now I'm reading the Bible. That's how I know it's God's will. Because he gave me the will to know his will. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it.